Welcome back to Out of the Fog. Well, St. John's Ice Caps are gearing up for the much-anticipated home opener tomorrow night at Mile One Center as they take on the Adirondack Phantoms. Now, with a mix of rookie and veteran players, is the team ready to make another step towards the Calder Cup? Joining me tonight to talk about this and more is the Telegram's Steve Bartlett and Brendan McCarthy. Welcome to tonight's Telegram panel.
Hi.
Well, let's start with the Ice Caps in terms of their season tickets. They have sold over 5,000, and that's an increase from last year. When you look at that, their popularity hasn't diminished at all. Are they just a license to print money? Steve, what are your thoughts?
Well, I don't know about a license to print money, but I think it's, I mean, when I line up for a coffee, I look around, I see Ice Caps hats or jerseys. Everywhere I go, I see an Ice Caps hat or jersey. I mean, they've created quite a buzz. Even over the summer, you'd see Ice Caps T-shirts and stuff. So it was great. And I think this year will be even more, because I think people have more familiarity. They're more familiar with some of the players. You know, people know, okay, the team is settling in now. Let's go. And now we've got the added bonus of having a couple of NHL level players here. So I think this year is going to be even more Ice Caps fever, as they say. And
Brendan, what do you think? Because even when you look back at the Fog Devils, there's not really that much. You can't compare the popularity between the two teams. No. What are the Ice Caps doing right?
Even going back to the Leafs for most of their time at Mile One, I think they certainly benefit from the economy. The economy is good. The other thing is that they've created the tough ticket atmosphere, which we used to see at Memorial Stadium, which was much smaller. It became the thing to do, and people used to talk about it, and because you couldn't get in, you wanted to get in. So I can't go around without someone saying, you know how I can get tickets, how can you get tickets. So they've got that tough ticket mentality going. And I think we were talking off air, there's a record to be had for consecutive sellouts as well, and Danny Williams wants it. It's 91 games. I'm going to say 91 games, Wilkes-Barre. So I think that's kind of, internally, that's probably spinning things a little bit too. They want to keep it going. I know he wants that record.
Well, last year it was, I think, 46 consecutive
count playoffs.
But do you think they'll reach or, you know, top that 91?
Well, they'd have to get to the playoffs. You know, you'd have to get to the playoffs in a certain amount of playoff games. I have no doubt they do it. As I said before, if there's a few tickets left over, Danny and Buddy will be out in New Gower Street hawking them. And he wants the real sellout, not the fake one where they actually have sold tickets and not bodies in the seats. So.
But imagine doing that, setting that record right out of the gate from your game one until, I mean, it's not the Yankees or the Red Sox we're talking. We're talking about a brand new team with a new name. I mean, it's quite amazing.
All right. Well, let's talk about, you know, there's a new season and there's new faces on the team. You mentioned about the NHL players, obviously the NHL lockout, which brings them here or in the AHL. How does the roster look right now, do you think, for the Ice Caps?
This is a better team than last year, but then so again is every team in the AHL. They've got a better team than last year because of the effects of the AHL lockout. They've got the name guys. You know, it's Burmistrov, Alexander Burmistrov. He's only 20 years old. Has already played 2 full NHL seasons. He's down from Winnipeg. He's on an entry-level contract. Adirondacks in, that's Philadelphia Flyers farm team. They've got Sean Couturier, Braden Shen. These are young stars. These are legitimate young stars who normally, under normal circumstances, would not play a game in the AHL unless they came to the end of their career or something like that, or circumstances dictated. So it's a bonus in that way. But it goes beyond that. It's deeper than that. There's probably 3 or 4 guys on the Ice Caps who played here last year, but if the NHL was operating, probably would be in Winnipeg or at least challenging for jobs in Winnipeg. Paul Postma, Aaron Gagnon, Spencer Mahachik, guys like this. They probably would be in Winnipeg right now. So you've got that added depth to teams. So the Ice Caps are better, but then again, so is every team. So if and when the lockout ends and how things shake out with these players going back to the NHL and whatever shuffle takes place as a result of that, that'll play out in the long run. But right now, every team is better. The league is that much better.
Well, people are saying, you know, this is the best game in town right now. But when you look at even like this weekend's game against the Phantoms, they have more NHL, I guess, players playing this weekend more than the Ice Caps. So how does that affect the game?
I would say there's quite a few Ice Caps with NHL. I mean, from Jason King, I can go on. There's probably 10 Ice Caps who've played in the NHL at some time. I think you're talking about guys who played in the NHL last year.
Yes.
You know, it depends. The AHL is a bit of a different game. Even Alex Burmistrov said yesterday when I was talking to him, hockey's hockey, but it was a bit of a different game. So, it's only been a week into the regular season to this point, but none of the young stars have lit it up in the early going. You know, it's a learning experience for them too. So I think it's that overall depth. I think those young stars are going to draw the attention and whatever. But it's those depth players, and the guys who be third or fourth liners in the NHL. Those are the guys who are going to make the big difference.
I think that it'll affect the game for the fans more than anyone, because they'll see. I mean, you know, when you see some of the NHL level players here last year, when the Leafs were here, I mean, they just stood out. Sometimes they touch the puck, and there's just this electricity. And I think the fans, I know as a fan myself, I love that. I look forward to certain players' next shift. So I think people will anticipate that for sure.
All right, let's get talking about, I guess, some of the players. Of course, Pasquale, the goalie. I mean, he very popular last season, but there's another new goalie. So when you look at who we have now, is there a fight for #1 goalie status, do you think?
I think there always is, especially at the AHL level, because I mean it's developmental. You're looking for a guy who can go to the NHL. Pasquale is the guy in the Winnipeg Jets organization. He's young. He's on his first contract. They don't have a lot of depth goaltending-wise, so I think they really would like for him to make a push. But to get that from a young goaltender, a lot of time you need a veteran to push him, and they've got, last year they hoped it was David Abisher or Peter Menino, and I guess in some sense that did happen, because Pasquale certainly developed. So it's Mark Decanich this year, who lost all of last year to injury.
But he had some really great saves on the weekend.
Yes, but before that he was an AHL All-Star goaltender, and he was signed by the Columbus Blue Jackets last year, and they thought he was going to make the NHL roster, and he just came up with an injury that caused him to lose his season, an ankle injury that turned out to be more than it was, and he's lost his season. So I think he's got something to prove. But I mean, he was a quality goaltender to begin with. But I don't think it's not bad to have too much depth at any position, including goaltender.
Yeah. The captain, Jason Jaffrey, he was injured. He had a neck injury. I think a lot of people were looking forward to him coming back, especially for the home opener, but I don't think that's the case. I know that you were talking with Coach McCambridge. What was he saying about
They're just being cautious about him. I mean, it's a spinal fusion, you know. He was opened up here to, you know, infused to, that was only...
it wasn't a small injury.
That wasn't only, it was in April, and so they're being cautious. He wants to play tomorrow night. He wants to play badly tomorrow night, and as of today, he was still lobbying the coach to do so. But I think they're going to wait until next week, the second part of this homestand against Portland. Next Wednesday, I think, is the date, so he'll get to play, and he's anxious. I think after Jason King, he may be the second most popular player on the team right now, so the fans will be anxious to see him as well. But I don't know more anxious than Jason Jaffrey. He wants to find out what he's going to be like on the ice, too, because he hasn't had an opportunity to do so yet.
As Steve, as I guess an Ice Caps fan yourself, what are you looking forward to seeing this week? And we were talking about some of the players and who may not be playing, who is playing.
Well, I'll be watching on TV, but I think what I'll be looking forward to most, I think, will be the NHL players and goaltending. And I'm also a fan of watching systems, and I don't know why, because I never was, but I find as I get older, I like watching. I've become more of a student of how the game works, since I can't play it very well myself. I like watching the breakout, and I like watching the neutral ice, and the defensive zone. So I'm looking forward to. I always liked last year's team, how they positioned themselves, and they played well as a team, and I expect that'll be the same this year.
And of course, one thing that you'll be seeing, of course, on the TV when you watch is the new clock, which was a big investment this year, and I think one that a lot of the fans will be happy with. There's no doubt about that. What do you think that even this new clock? I mean, it's just that when you talk about all the hype and everything, I don't know if everybody has seen it yet, but there's cameras on all sides, all sorts of graphics, so a little bit more flashier than what we're used to.
Again, I think it's all for the fans. I think the fans the atmosphere has always been great down there for AHL hockey, and I think this is just going to really make it even better.
When we talk about this weekend's games, what are you anticipating to come out of the games on this weekend?
It's going to be interesting because there's a lot of players right now on the Ice Caps. I think the roster stands as we speak 28 players. So that's 8 more than you would dress in any one night. So there's a and there aren't many fringe players. You've got a guy, Derek Whitmore, who played in the NHL last year, who hasn't played yet. He's healthy and hasn't played yet. There's reasons for that. The AHL veteran rule, which is complicated, but which does come into play here.
Well, it just means that they can only
dress so many veterans. I won't go into
right?
the details, but there's so many so-called veterans they can dress, and so there's big pressure, not only with the Ice Caps, But with the Winnipeg Jets, and you're going to have a lot of Winnipeg Jets brass down here because right now they don't have anything else to do. So they're going to be, you're going to see the GM and maybe eventually the coach and I think the owner of the Jets, Mark Chipman, is down tomorrow night. So these players they're playing where some of the NHLers aren't. These guys are playing, and they have an opportunity to showcase themselves for the brass. So I think you're going to see it stepped up a little bit, but I think it's important that going back to what Steve said, that they maintain that kind of team identity they had, and not try to be flashy as individuals, but to maintain that team identity and then look for promotion from that way.
All right. Well, we have to leave it there for tonight's panel. I want to thank you both so much for joining me, and we'll see. Time will tell, I guess, for tomorrow night and see what comes out of tomorrow night's game. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks.
All right. Well, I know that there's going to be lots of coverage of the Ice Caps to look forward to in the Telegram. And we're happy to announce that Rogers TV will be bringing you live coverage of the Ice Caps again this season. Tune in to Rogers TV tomorrow night. The pregame starts at 7 p.m. The puck drops at 7:30. For more information on our upcoming coverage, visit our website at rogerstv.com. We'll be right back. We like hearing from you, so let us know what you think of tonight's show. Leave your name and number, and we may just broadcast those comments. Call us at 757-9600 or drop us an email, outofthefog@rci.rogers.com.